Gentlemen, let's talk about Kirby.
Kirby?
Yeah.
So bright and happy.
Kirby is so bright and happy. Why are there so many Kirby games?
Because he is a big round form which can be shoved into any mold you lift.
I feel like Kirby is popular enough that people will check out Kirby games, but he is not so popular that they necessarily care what type of game he's in. And so I feel like he's the
That's not a Kirby game.
I feel like he's the perfect scapegoat for them to do a bunch of weird experiments.
You're right. If it were Mario as a little ball rolling around,
right.
I'd be incensed.
Like there was a Mario pinball game where Mario was a little pinball. I'm like, this is weird.
On Game Boy Advance, yeah?
Yeah. This is not right.
So
but if it was Kirby, whatever.
How would you describe this game to a person?
It was Kirby. He had one too.
Kirby's Pinball?
Yeah.
What was it called?
It was called Kirby's Pinball on the Game Boy. It's actually a really good game.
Cool.
Yeah. How would you describe Rainbow Curse?
Yeah.
Do we assume they have knowledge of the Nintendo DS?
No, we can't assume that.
Okay.
That was almost 10 years ago now, right?
Yes.
Well, what's interesting is the gameplay mechanic actually started with Yoshi, with Yoshi's Touch and Go.
No.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing.
It wasn't that different. You were drawing lines to guide Yoshi, and you didn't really have direct control over Yoshi. And then later, they did the Canvas Curse for Kirby, and that was a more full-fledged game. Because the thing with Yoshi was like it was just this weird, endless, like
high score type of game.
Yeah, it was like procedurally generated somehow.
And then Canvas Curse is one of those first DS games where the DS made sense.
Yes. It justified the concept of the DS. That's how a lot of people refer to it.
Justified playing games on a touchscreen.
Yeah.
Which seems funny to question nowadays.
10 years later, does this justify a Wii U gamepad?
In a way, it almost makes me angry, and I know this has been brought up a lot, but the game looks so good. I love the claymation style.
Yeah.
I said it in my review. I'm like, it fits so well with the general aesthetic of Kirby. I'm like, why hasn't this been done before? But it doesn't look nearly as good on the low-res gamepad. And you wish you could be staring up at the
Which
TV.
is funny to me because it really doesn't bother me hardly at all.
Okay.
To look between the screens. And actually, sometimes when I do look at the HD, like I see like a little bit of aliasing or something on Kirby's body, and I'm like, that actually kind of takes me out of it a little bit. So where that like that fuzz of being lower res is like, okay, it just looks like what it is.
Mm-hmm. It is slightly more convincing on the low res screen than it is up on your HD TV or whatever. But I mean, that is what we're talking about. This is probably one of the best looking games I've played this year in its own weird way.
Yeah.
Extremely convincing clay aesthetic. I don't understand what is happening there, but it's the imperfections. I was like looking at it closely in the model viewer, and it's like, I think the way to do this is to make little mistakes.
Right, because it looks like somebody actually made it by hand. Like there are little cracks and little holes you can see. Yeah, it's very good. And something that I really like about the style is, unlike Kirby's Epic Yarn, a game that I like, but I feel like sometimes when you have an aesthetic like that that's different, you go too much with it, that becomes a gimmick, and it's like, okay, constantly do yarn things where you're pulling the background or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like Rainbow Curse never indulges itself too much. Like there are just little touches, like when Kirby falls from a height and he flattens out, or like when an enemy forms from something in the background. But I never felt like
it's not a game about being clay.
Yeah,
right.
It just uses that as a style, which I really respect.
Epic Yarn was that. It was a game about being yarn and pulling on yarn and all of these different things. Whereas it's just the world is made out of clay and whatever weird justification there might be. I don't even know if there really is one.
I don't think there really is one in the story.
No. That's just the way we're being told the story. Mm-hmm. There's no clay.
The novelty doesn't wear off.
Yeah. Kirby does not see clay. Kirby sees his own world.
Yep.
But it's it's pretty cool. I think so getting into it though, like the gameplay mechanic it's interesting because like we said, you don't have direct control over
There's
Kirby.
no jump button.
Nope.
No jump button, no control. A lot of the thing that kind of bugs me, and it's always bugged me since like Mario Brothers 3, is the auto scrolling levels.
Yeah.
Where it's like I have to keep going, I have to keep on, and it's like now I'm getting to the point where they're bottomless pits, the Sky World.
Yeah. What's interesting about this game is like you have to be good at it.
Yeah.
You have to be good at a whole new skill set, and that is kind of cool about it, I think, because there's some parts that are just totally hard.
Yep.
Some treasure chests that are just, I don't even know how to get this good at this game.
Right.
Or when you get into those side rooms, where it's like 15 seconds to identify what you're supposed to do, and then do it perfectly.
Yeah, so
or you're not going to get the chest.
Usually I'll fail the first time and then kill myself and then do it again the second time. I'll kill myself just to get a stupid
But then what's worse
treasure.
is if you die afterwards and you have to do it again.
I'll do it again.
I do completely agree with you, and I actually think the bosses do a pretty good job of making sure that you're good at the game.
Yeah.
Because there's usually a lot you have to pay attention to. Like, not only do you have to attack the boss, but you have to dodge what he's doing with your lines.
Yeah.
Which
in a way.
is tricky.
It is
Dodging
very
is
tricky.
the trickiest thing to do with the lines.
But I don't think, like, there were times where I died where I genuinely felt like it wasn't my fault. And I think the most egregious offenders were, you were talking about the auto-scrolling levels. Sometimes in the auto-scrolling levels, I feel like they put you into very, very small corridors. And anytime you don't have a lot of room to draw, I would find myself like accidentally tapping Kirby instead of drawing a line.
Oh, dude.
And so he would shoot forward and I would die and be like, well, okay.
So to explain what that is if you hold down on Kirby, he just starts this ultra charge attack.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to accidentally set that off. What I
Yeah.
do every time he does that is I'll click start with my pinky and then go back into the game, and that'll cancel his charge, and then it'll be back to normal.
That's
Weird.
fascinating. I did not think of that.
So, but
It's stupid. No,
It is
no one
stupid.
should ever do
No,
that.
I'm amazed that you figured that out, that it worked that
But
way.
what's funny to me about that is this is a game. It's designed as if it's on a phone. It completely ignores the fact that you have buttons at all, because this whole problem could be solved by simply putting the dash button on
a trigger. Oh, that'd be so
Right.
good.
And so then if you touch Kirby, no big deal.
Yeah.
I
I would
completely
disagree
agree.
though about a phone. You definitely need a stylus because of how precise your drawings
Yep.
need to be.
You couldn't use your finger and have it.
Yeah,
work
you would
in
get a
the
lot of
There's
Kirby
some
does.
Samsungs that have stylus now.
Yes.
They're starting to go back there. I think some people are even saying that the rumors of Apple doing a stylus in the future or something.
Steve Jobs would have hated that. He'd be so mad. We should talk about the levels themselves, the design. There's actually some good level design in this game, even though it's not a platformer traditionally. Things I like seeing the exit to your stage way before you actually get there, and then you
Yep.
come around to it.
And you
things
hear
like
the
that.
music.
Yeah.
Yep, before you get there.
I love that kind of thing. Seeing a challenge ahead of time and then meeting it later, and it all makes
There's
sense.
some
It
things
clicks.
off screen. But going back to those auto-scrolling levels, I think the thing that's probably the worst for me is when you have the big charge move, and then you kind of shoot off the screen, and then you're like waiting to catch yourself. I'm like, where am I gonna fall back down?
I think that's intentional.
Yeah.
Especially during one of the boss fights where it's just like you would have destroyed him, so they kind of send you up for a little while, and then you're like, okay, now you can come back down, Kirby.
The game does one of those patent Nintendo things that I really admire, and as I was playing through it, it made me realize how other games from other studios don't have as much restraint, because all the way up until World 7, they're doing new mechanics.
Yeah.
Like in World 7, there's a very, very cool thing that I won't spoil that happens, and you only see it once, and then it never happens again. And I'm like, I play so many games where I feel like all of the ideas are kind of shown within the first half.
Yes,
Which I really like about Rainbow Curse.
that's a cool thing. That is a restraint, as you call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's World 3, like how they do the inverted thing with the water, to where like now it's like you're putting a cap on it rather than a road underneath.
Yes. Yeah, that's very cool. But kind of talking about the restraint in the level design, something that really bummed me out, and I don't know if you've experienced yet or if either of you have experienced yet, but there are 7 worlds. In the 7th world, you fight a unique final boss. And in the first 3 worlds, you fight unique bosses. But in worlds 4, 5, and 6, you just fight the first 3 bosses again.
I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
That's, oh boy.
I mean, they're different, kind of. Like, there are little
They're
twists
different
thrown in.
characters, but they're the same.
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
Metroid Prime Hunters.
Right, exactly. And I don't understand when they have so much variations in the levels themselves, why they would repeat the bosses.
They probably didn't have more boss ideas of like how to
Yeah.
actually fight something as like a. You're not playing as Kirby in this game. You're playing as a weird little fairy painter.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true. That's
Isn't that
true.
weird?
But I felt really compelled to go get all of the treasure chests. I don't know if you guys are
Yes,
feeling the same.
100% yes.
We were talking about how detailed they were, and just the descriptions are genuinely like pretty cute and funny as
Right.
well. And what I liked about the game is, I feel like if I was just going through a level and I wasn't thinking about it, no matter what, I would at least get like 2 or maybe 3 treasure chests. But the other 2 or 3 would be really hard to find.
They'd be hard to get, too.
Yeah, and I like that because we were talking about Donkey Kong Country Returns earlier, and it was like, those puzzle pieces are impossible to find. Like, I would get to the end of a level in Donkey Kong Country Returns, I would get like 1 out of 6 puzzle pieces, and I would feel so discouraged that I just would kind of forget about it. But in Kirby, I feel like they're giving me enough to make me want to go back in and get the rest.
Yeah, they're all fair. They're all fair spots. Final question. This game is $40. It released, in February. What do you think its legacy is going to be?
Its legacy?
Yeah. Like,
kind of a fun
Canvas
question.
Curse has a legacy. Canvas Curse helped propel the DS forward,
Yeah,
I'd say
I don't know that it's going to
Nintendo's
have
more
that
than
kind of a thing, but I think it has a place. It is always cool to have a game that where you can feel perfectly comfortable, not having to look at the screen, to be able to play that when other people are using the TV or whatever. I think again, moving into these different art styles is great. I wonder, when we're going to exhaust that that level of stuff, because it's like, okay, we had Paper Mario, we've had Canvas Kirby and Yarn Kirby, and like, when are we gonna get the food Kirby, right? When are we gonna get Kirby actually made out of marshmallow?
I think it's pretty cool, Food Kirby.
I think it's pretty cool.
Ben, what do you think? How do you think this game will last?
This is gonna sound derogatory, but it's not. It's actually, I think it's a point of praise where I think Rainbow Curse will be like a lot of other Kirby games. It will be fondly remembered in the way that if somebody says, hey, should I play Rainbow Curse? You say, yeah, it's a fun game. It's a great way to spend your weekend.
Yeah.
Do I think it's some of Nintendo's best work? No. Do I think it's an incredible game? No. But it's something that's unique that you really can't get on any other platform that's worth playing through.
It's a great descriptor. See you later, everybody!
Bye!